maybe with a little practice, I could tell myself to relax it. Will be better next time I try. And even if I still can't do it, yeah, you know that I'm gonna stick to it. Yes, it's all about going through it, and I'm gonna tell you why. Whoopsie, whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies are what it takes to get better and better every day. Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies, help me look, see, I'm better at this today. Woo! Whoopsies, 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 whoopsies. I'm a little embarrassed when I look at my drawing compared to this. I'm just not getting anywhere with this. It makes me wanna hide. Aw, don't be embarrassed. Don't hide. You should have seen mine the first time I tried. It took a lot of whoopsies to look this way.
No one's perfect on their first day. Whoopsie.
Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies are what it takes to get better and better every day. Whoopsie, 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 whoopsies.
Well, what about this? I want to jump rope, but nope, I just can't do it.
Well, not yet. Come on and practice with me. You'll see there's nothing to it.
Whoa! Whoopsie.
Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies, help me look, see, I'm better at this today. Woo!
It was only a dream, the waves of evil crashing over us. It was only a weak and faithful scream beneath the battlements. I know it's hard, we're falling off, the fight's too hard. Wake up, my love, please don't give up on me. It's hard. Wake up.
What is up? What is up, you guys? We are back at it again. Another epic day here in 100 days of Rootkit. We're chugging along with our final project. More to do. We're gonna finish up posting today, all right, and then we're gonna call it good. All right, we're gonna have a short day. We also have some things to do with decorators and what else did I say yesterday? We gotta do the decorators. We gotta do the posting, and I guess we'll figure out what the other one is. All right, so we can make things a little bit more dry and a little faster for us on developing. I hope you all are excited because it's going to be a good one. Before we move on, let's go ahead and finish up our intro. If you don't know, we are a Rootkit nonprofit organization here in the US of A. Don't go to college. Come on, don't go to any other boot camp. You're already watching right now. Continue watching all 100 days and get certified. It's really that easy. All right. Once you get certified, you can get a job. Additionally, if you go over to our blog, we have our final giveaway going on now. Make sure you enter. As you can see, there are a lot of entries, right? There are a lot of entries right now. So make sure you enter to win the giveaway. Someone might have been doing some exploitation, but that's fine. All right, we're all about exploitation, so that has been fixed. Only one person wins merch, so just because one person has a lot of entries doesn't mean they're gonna win all the merch. All right, so make sure you enter. Make sure you enter. It's free. Just click the green button. Show that you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitch, etc., etc. Every single one of them gets you more entries. All right, so enter now. On top of that, there's a link in the description of the video, and if you're on Twitch down below, there's a link somewhere where you can donate. We are a charity, so every time you donate, it's 100% tax deductible. Avoid your taxes today. Donate. Depending on how much you donate, you can unlock certain rewards like our epic stickers, our collab t-shirt, and our epic sweaters. All right. All donations are matched 1-for-1 for the first 10,000 donations. All right. And we have epic pillars along the way, like streaming for 24 hours straight, shave my head here live on stream, and shave my beard. No one wants to see that, so we don't really care. All right. Let us continue on our journey here. This is the right one. Let me go and zoom in here. Alrighty. Let's if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, go ahead and ask them now. Also, I am in the events chat, right? If you want to jump in there and just talk, feel free to do that. That is for our volunteers, Patreon, and Discord server subscribers only. All right. Everyone else, you just gotta chat. See. Oh boy. Are you back on here right now? Back to back. Let me pull up the chats here. All right, let's pull up the YouTube and let's pull up the Twitch. And let us continue our journey, I guess. I'm going to put that on live chat. Well, if you're on here, leave a comment or join in VC. All right, let us continue, shall we? So we left off with making the posting mechanism. All right, we can get posts and make posts, text only posts. All right, which is a new powerful feature for us that we're able to check off. The only thing that we're seeing over and over and over again is this text here, or sorry, this code here, right? This code here is not very dry. We have a lot of the code. It's not even just in post, it's also in user, right? It's just in user, it's not in DB. It's not dry at all, right? It's not dry at all. So how can we improve this? How can we make things better? Great question. There's several ways you can go about this, all right? And not they're all valid, right? They're all valid. So one would be to make a function, right? Just to make a singular function that has this code in it and that you import in all these libraries, and then you just call that one function to do the verification and then return to you whether it's yay or nay, like good or not, all right? Very simplistic doing it that way. You can also utilize decorators, right? Decorators are those things with the @ sign. We're going to show how you can utilize a decorator, right? in the power of a decorator. So let's go ahead and do that. First thing, when we don't know how to make something, we can go Google, Bing it, whatever. We're gonna ask Bing Chat here. So Python decorator example. So let's see what it produces here for us. All right, that's describing a decorator. Again, if you forgot, that's the @ signs, right? The @ signs that you see. There we go, like this. The @ signs that you see in front of a function. So what those are functions themselves that are auto running basically whatever they're attached to. So it says here we can make this function just like this, right? And this is the template. So let's go ahead and copy it. And this is doing auth. All right, this is seeing if we're allowed to hit this endpoint. So it makes sense to me that it would go into the auth file. Now this is kind of convoluted, depends on how you want to take it, because the auth file could be for endpoints only. All right, so it might make sense if we make a folder in libs called endpoints and another one just for other items. For now, since this has to do with authorization, we're going to dump everything that has to do with authorization in here, including our new wrapper that we're going to make. So if we paste this, we can see this is the function for it. For the name of the function, we don't want to call it performance. We want to call it is auth. All right. So the user has to be authenticated. So what happens in this function is the function that we wrapped it around is going to be shoved into us. I guess maybe we should put this into a different one, because then we would have to import this auth into. Let's go ahead and actually, I changed my mind. And before we do that, let's actually take a breath here and check out what repo we're currently in. And we are currently in the posting repo. So let's first git add all, git commit, and this is from added comments. Let's go ahead and do our pull request first. So let's git push that up. Let's git check out to dev. All right, and actually we're going to do a merge this one. So git merge. We're going to merge. What branch was this called? Feature posting. Feature / posting. Tac no ff. There we go. Let's go and push that up. And from here, let's go ahead and git check out to a new branch called feature and auth deck. All right, now that we're in here, we'll make our additions. So we're gonna make a new file in here called utils.py. And in here, we'll go and paste that function. So any function can be a wrapper. All a wrapper takes in is a function itself. So if I were to make a wrapper, let's say this was a function that we made, this function will get the function below it shoved into it. That's why it says func right here, right? So what's going to happen is inside of here is what we're going to execute. It's a function within a function effectively, and we're returning the wrapped up function, all right? Because we're getting the function that it is decorated on top of. We're doing maybe something beforehand, maybe something afterwards, and then we're returning, right? We're returning our results. So what we're going to be doing in this example is we're going to want to erase everything except for us running the function, and asterisk args and asterisk k args are for simply passing through any arguments that may exist or may be getting passed. All right, that's what they're there for. And then it's going to return potentially a result, and we're going to just keep passing on that result. Now in here is where we would want to put, before the function runs, is where we're going to want to put our token code, because we want to see if they're even allowed to hit that endpoint first before we run the function that we're wrapping around. So we need to do some imports here. So we got to import JWT, and we also need to import OS, and we also need to import Flash request. There we go. So again, what's going to happen? Let's show it off. User, right here, this me, specifically this get function right here. We don't want people to get information about a user unless they are an authenticated user themselves. All right. So we could add our decorator on it. So what we have to do here is import, let's do from utils, import is auth. So at is auth. So this is auth decorator is a function, and this function below it is going to be shoved into is auth. All right. This entire function here is going to be shoved inside of is auth as this variable called func. All right. Now, it's going to just pass everything into a separate function here. And in here is where we can have code before or after that function that we want to run, aka that get function, and then we can just pass on the results. It's up to us where we want this logic, but we're putting it all beforehand because before this even runs, we want to make sure that everything is good, all right? That everything is good and they have a valid token with a valid user. The last thing we're kind of missing here is that they have a valid, well, actually no, this is going to be good because we don't have any expiration or anything like that. So if you add expiration to your tokens, you're going to need to modify this to see if the token is expired or not. We don't, so if this works, all right, and doesn't error out, then we should be fine. All right, so to see this in action, let's go ahead and remove this code here because we don't need that anymore. And you see how small our function is now? It's absolutely beautiful, right? It's absolutely beautiful. There's not very much code in here now. It's way easier to understand. We do have some issues here in regards to what we are getting. So we need to pass through the data of the auth item. So what we'll say here is data equals data. There we go. And now we're required to have a data item. All right, so that's going to be passing through automatically data. Alrighty, let's see this in action, shall we? Is this going to be yes? Oh, thank God. All right, so no module named utils. That's because it's supposed to be libs.utils. Let's rerun this. There we go. We're running. We're in action. So let's see this fully working. It's on the get request. So let's do our get request, and you see it worked just like normal. It worked just like normal, except now our function is wrapped in this decorator. Again, making decorators is not something we've covered before. It's something we've talked about before, and it's not something that we're going to be testing or looking for you to do on the exam. This is another pro gamer move thing that you should start looking into and learning and expanding your horizons, because it can be very, very powerful when used correctly, right? So just to show that it is going here into this wrapped function, we can go ahead and do a print right here that says print, we are in the wrapped function. Then right here, oh, there we go. And then right here, before we run the actual function, we're going to do print, we are about to run the actual function. There we go. So again, what's going to happen is the function that we wrapped, like that get request function, right? That get function is going to be passed in right here. All right. And this is where that get function is going to be executed right here. So let's see this in action again. Let's go ahead and run, hit the get request. And look at that. We are in a wrap function. We are about to run the action function. I don't know why I called it action function. Run the function. And you can see it's printing out those because we are actually in here. Any questions on this before we move forward? Because we're about to edit all of our code to use this wrapper, right? To use this decorator. I know this can be kind of confusing in seeing functions within functions. You can also do classes within classes, and they're unlimited. You can go down the inception road as much as possible, all right? As much as your heart desires. And there are real reasons to potentially do that, right? So just know that is something you can do, and it can be eventually really good and powerful for you. I don't see any questions. So if you do have questions, make sure you go ahead and ask them, and I'll be looking over. But for now, we're going to continue on. So we need to now wrap all of our functions that we want to be authenticated, right? We want to be authenticated. So we don't want them to be able to change user info unless they're fully authenticated. So we need to wrap this one. We can remove all that logic. Now this is way smaller, way nicer looking. But remember, we have to pass in data, right? Maybe we shouldn't call this data. Maybe we should call this auth user. And we can even type it. That even works too. No, this isn't the auth user. This is just a dictionary. Right? Data, JSON decode. Yep, it's just this dictionary. So let's just change this to dic. There we go. And this is going to be the user header, I guess. I guess we'll call it user header. Well, everything else is called data though. I guess we're going to change everything from data to user header now. All right. Copy, find. Looks like it's just those items. So we're going to just do that right now. And this we need to change to user header right here. All right. And now we need to go to post and do the same thing. So we can remove all of this, and look how much smaller these functions are and how much easier they are to now understand. It's absolutely beautiful, right? It's absolutely beautiful. Now the other way, like I said, you can make it into a normal function and just have that function, call that function right here and execute it and do that logic that way. That works also. It's up to you. Both are valid. I think decorators are a little bit more clean, and you can potentially do a lot more with them and keep things dry at the same time. All right. So we need to from libs there we go. We need to do at. Oh, that works. And then this one, the same thing. Perfect. And we need to pass through the, what were we calling it? User header. Maybe user header is not a good word either, but hey, like I said, I'm not the best at naming variables, so we're just gonna roll with this one for now. All right. All right. So user header there, and I don't think we have anything in this one. That's the DB. I mean an auth. So we're good. Test is just here for us doing testing, so we could just remove this and wrap it also. So from libs.utils, there we go. And we got to wrap this is auth and put in here user header. Perfect. All right. And we got to change this one. And we're fully converted over. All right, we're fully converted over. Things are way smaller, way cleaner looking. We don't have monstrous code that looks like a monster. And it's dry. All right, it's dry now compared to before. All right, it's super dry. This is a requirement. Yeah, you might be saying, oh, but this is in a bunch of different places. This is as dry as it gets. You can't not do that. It's a requirement. So that means it's dry. Nicholas says clean. That's what I'm saying. All right, that's what I'm saying. Let's see quick before and afterwards, all right? Before, all right, before, and this is on every single function, and now afterwards, all right? Looks way sexier if you ask me, all right? I'll take that every day, 10 out of 10. Any questions, comments, or concerns before we chug along here? And whoops, forgot one. There we go. Any questions, comments, or concerns before we chug along here? All right, I don't see any questions. So if you guys do have questions, just ask them, and I'll be looking for them. Let us continue. This is a great point for us to go ahead and do our get add all and our get commit, and then say that we made a decorator for auth. There we go. Git push. Let's go and copy our line here because we never made the branch. This should also push our updates. I'm just going to do one more git push just as a sanity check to make sure everything was pushed up. And now that it is, we can go and git check out to our dev branch. And we won't do the manual merge this time, all right? I just showed off the manual merge as just another reminder that you can do it that way. But let's go through the GUI. All right, let's go through the GUI. Where are we going? GitHub. GitHub, and we're going to the project. Here we go. All right, and it sees we did a lot of different things recently. Let's just ignore them and go over to pull requests. Let me zoom in. Again, when we're in pull requests, click on the new pull request button. We're going to take it from, not from dev. Our new one was auth deck. All right, because we made our auth decorator. So we want that branch and we want to put it into dev, right? We want to put it into dev. So we're going to create the pull request, leave whatever we're going to leave here, add any reviewers we want to add, and then create the pull requests, right? Here you'll chat back and forth with whoever's supposed to approve you. If you're reviewing someone's stuff, we can click at files change and see if it's good or not. We can click on review change and be like, it sucks. All right, we can leave a comment, we can approve, request changes, whatever we want, and then someone will eventually have to click the pretty green button. We're going to click it in this case because it's our stuff, all right? No one else is on here. So we're going to click that button, and bam, everything's merged over into dev. Exact same steps, or more steps, the exact same thing as doing merge. So now that the remote server is updated, we need to update our local. So let's go and do a git pull, and there we go. Now we have everything locally. Let me pull up the chats again. All right, sweet. So we solved that. I wanted to do that before we continue with our posting stuff because you know, it's not staying very dry right now, and I wanted to do that so we could stay as dry as possible, and also show you guys an example of how you can make your own decorator. And not just use them whenever they're potentially available. So let's go over here to post. So we left off yesterday with posts. We're able to get posts. We're able to make posts. And I believe making posts are pretty much set. The only thing is we may want to add logic because, again, we're getting in text from the user. So not user ID is the issue. It's going to be text here. To do validate text. All right. Since we're getting text from the user, we may want to clean it up a little bit. We may want to clean it up a little bit because we are displaying this onto browsers. So maybe we want to clean it up so there's no code included in it if they're trying to do a code injection, exploit, or maybe we want it to be a certain format, or maybe we don't want it to be longer than like 100 characters. Whatever we want to do, you're going to want to add your logic right here to validate it. Yeah, you might say, oh, the database is going to handle it if it's over 255 characters. Maybe that's the limit that you want. You're right, it will. But you know what? You can also doubly check and add some logic here for it. Or what's even better is your database, I believe, when you try to give it too much data, so let's say it's 255 is the hard limit for characters, and they give you 300. I think it may just straight up error out, and if it does, it's going to return an invalid request. May be annoying to the user because now they have to change things and then resend it. It might be a nicer feature if you kind of just gracefully handled it, aka cut anything off that was over the 255 limit and then just submitted that. So that way the database took it. Yeah, it's missing the little end part, but at least it took it, right? At least it took it. It's totally up to you, but anytime you're getting input from the user, you got to add some validation. Additionally, for our user here, when they're able to edit the user information, we should add some logic here, right? Specifically, I'm going to add the to-do right here, to-do validate data. But an easier way here to do this type of validation would be to straight up add getters and setters to your class, right? If you add getters and setters here to this class, then you'll find that it's a little easier to do your validation, right? A little easier to do your validation because it's kind of automatically done whenever you get or retrieve data. All right, let's go ahead and continue, shall we? The get request is functioning, but not in the exact way we want it to function. So let's go ahead and actually, hold on, read our README. Content posting with and without images. Okay, so that's what we're still doing right now. Get branch, and we have posting. So let's go ahead and get check out to our posting branch that we already have. Get stash, get checkout feature / posting. Now, this posting branch is behind the dev branch, which is the most up-to-date one. So what we can do is we can pull all of the new updates from the dev branch and put it into posting. All right, so we can keep working in that space, and then we can push it back to dev. So if we do a get merge with dev, all right, ff, this will pull everything from dev over to posting, right? Pull everything from dev over to posting. So now we have the most up-to-date stuff in here. So let's finish this minor tweak, and then we'll finish off the day with the images, right? Being able to post images. So in here for our posts, when we get stuff, we get everything. We may not want to do that. Now, getting everything by default may be fine if it's everything that you're subscribed to. But I don't know if we're going to build subscribing on here. So what we'll do instead is have three options. Three different options. Well, would it be just two options? 2.5 options. One, get everything, right? That will be your feed. So anyone on this platform, you can't really follow people like Twitter. Instead, you just get everything, the entire feed, right? That's one option. The other option is view all of your stuff, right? Everything you've posted before. And the third option would be view one other person's stuff, like everything of one other person. All right. So let's go ahead and write that. So we got to do right here, figure out filtering so we don't get other people's posts. So there's three options. One, get all the posts and filter them. Two, get all the, I don't know, interesting. Filter them in SQL and then filter them. Okay. All right. Get all the posts. The other option would be get all our posts. And the third option would be get all posts from a specified user. Perfect. Additionally, it's very common when you're getting posts to not want all of them. What do I mean by that? Let's say I've an active person on Twitter and I post a lot. And over the years, I've accrued a lot of posts. How many? Over 10,000. All right, over 10,000 posts. You think that's weird? Trust me, it's not weird. I've analyzed a lot of Twitter data. Oh, there's a lot of people there that have posted over 10,000 times. Something's wrong with them. They need some fucking help. Holy shit. So you don't want all of that data because, again, what's the slowest thing? The slowest thing is data being transferred over the wire. How large is that? That could be megabytes of text data. Maybe you don't want to download megabytes of text data to your computer. So it's commonplace to see pagination, right? So maybe add pagination, right? So what does this mean? Basically start and stop, right? If there's 10,000 posts, do you want just the first 10? Do you want the first 100? So I guess also you could do maybe limit. So you could specify how many posts you get. And then pagination would be, do we want the first 10? Do we want the middle 10? Do we want the last 10? Do we want the first 10 after the first 300 posts? You can specify that. It's usually as a start-stop value that's passed into the query params, right? The query params. Because this is a GET request, which means we shouldn't be passing things in where? In the request body. No. Just as query params. So, now that we've written all this out, let's think about how we would go about doing it. By default, we can make it so get all posts gets all posts. So if you go to this URL, you have nothing. You say nothing extra. We're going to default to giving you all of the posts, all right? If you specify something, all right, if you specify something, then we're going to do whoever that user is, right? So we could say something like in here, what was the, it was request dot query string, right? Is this a function? Bytes. Was it query string? Param? Let's go ask Bing, because I forget right now. Is it a dot get something? Alright, let's go to Bing because I forget right now. Python flash get query parameters. Request.args. Alright, request.args is what we need in order to get the query params, and this is going to be a dictionary of stuff, right? Going to be a dictionary of stuff. So, what we can say is that you can specify a user based off their, let's say, their ID. And this would be equal to, let's say, request params is going to be equal to, so request args is going to be equal to query params, because I just want to save that off. And this is going to try to get we'll just go user ID. So by default, get will return none if it doesn't exist. So if this is none, then we will get all the posts. If it's not none, that means they either specified themselves or they specified another user. And this is going to be going based off of ID. We could additionally make something for username. Do that all lowercase. All right, so that way you could potentially search for posts based off a username, but it's going to be easiest just to use the user ID. So I'm not going to do that for right now. let's go ahead and remove that to do because we're doing it right now. So by default, we are going to get all posts, specifically if the user ID is none. So if the user ID is none, then we want the posts to be that, right? We want the post to be that, what we already have in here. And we do want to predefine posts so that way we don't run into any issues later on in regards to it in whatever. There's some issues sometimes, right? So it's sometimes better to predefine things like you do in C, right? Like you do in C. So if the user ID is none, then we're just going to grab everything. If the user ID is not none, so else if, did that wrong. Else if user ID is not none. Now, I'm not doing an else here because just in case we have additional options. So this should resolve our posts, even though I wrote out posts, and specified user posts. So lastly, we need to do pagination and limits, right? Paginations and limits. So this is something we may want to do before all of these other shenanigans, because that's something we are potentially going to be adding here to our queries, right? But before we get into that, let's just go ahead and test our code and make sure it works. So no matter what, if post is equal to none, we're going to return that it was a 500 error. If it's good, then we're going to go ahead and generate the list of posts. Again, this is a shorthand. This is what the normal version would look like. And this is going to be the shorthand we're going to return. So let's see this in action, shall we? If we go over here and then go to our post and we do get posts, we should, if we run the server, we should see everything's the same at first. So we should see everything's the same at first because by default, when we get the posts, we should see we get all of the posts. Now, when we specify a parameter like the user ID, and our user ID is, it looks like 1 for these posts. So we're going to say 1 and send, and we still get our posts. If we say the user ID is 2, we should get no posts. And look at that, we get no posts. So that functionality is working right now, flawlessly, all right? Absolutely flawlessly it is working right now. So we're able to continue on. We can now add potentially pagination. So what we can do here is, it might be easier just to do a limit at first. So we can have a limit, and we don't want limit to equal to none. We can have it by default, the limit is equal to 10. And that way we can easily include it into all of these. I'm hoping it's just .limit, right? We'll see here in a second. So a quick, easy way for us to test this is we know we have 3 posts total in our database. So if we want to limit it to maybe 1 post, this should now only show 1 post. That's just a quick, dirty way we can go about testing this right now. So let's go and run it and see. And it looks like limit is not going to work for us right there. Maybe limit goes before this. Again, I'm not too familiar myself with the yeah, it is. All right, perfect. You can see now we only get 1. And again, this is a limit via the database side of things, right? So you can retrieve everything from the database, all 10,000 records, and then filter them all out on the Python side. That 100% will work and is 100% valid, right? The only potential downfall there is you are transferring all of that data, all right? So it could be kind of slow between the database and you, all right? So this is a way to basically make the database do all the work and then just send you the results, because that's going to be a little bit faster, right? A little bit faster. But again, it's totally up to you. If it works, it works, right? If it works, it works. You can worry about cutting costs and optimizations like that later on if you really need to rush things out, right? So that's adding the limit. So now people can mess with the limit by doing the by specifying a limit here in the param. So they can say limit. Now we set the limit to 10. So if we turn off this limit right now, we should see all the posts show up. They do. So now we can just say limit, and we want to limit it to only 2 posts. And bam, now we only get 2 posts here. All right. ID number 1 and ID of number 2. So that's really, really nice. I'm going to turn that off so we get all of them. The last thing is going to be our pagination, right? Our pagination. So this would be effectively we can make it so it's a multiplier based off of our limit. So if limit is our page, so aka you can only see 10 at a time and there is 100 posts, you can see the first 10 or the second 10 or the third 10 or the etc, etc, etc. All right, that would be our pagination, our pages. All right, so we can say something like, I don't know, page equals that. And then for the query here, we would need to do a thing. I forget right now. That's a great thing. We can go ask Bing. All right. So Python Flask get Python Flask SQL Alchemy pagination. Let's see what Bing says, because I don't quite remember right now off the top of my head, and I don't want to spend the time Googling it because we got other stuff to do, so we might just skip it. I was looking for some example code, buddy. You can call SQL Alchemy.paginate on the select statement to get a pagination object during a request. This will take per page argument, pass per max per page to prevent user requesting too many results on a single page. If not given, the default value will be 1 with 20 items per page. Will this give me, so here's order by DB pagination. So do we just wrap it? I'm guessing we just wrap it. Let's see. Self dot pagination, and then they said it was a during request. This will take the page and per page arguments via the pass max per page to prevent. So if we say max per page, but how do you say the page limit? I'm gonna stay on here for like 2 more seconds. Why would you even talk about it here and then not even show it? Here we go. All right, so we can go right here, and we have our limit. So what page we are on equals our page value that we made earlier, and then per page would be equal to our limit. I feel like that should be max per page. Per page is the maximum number of items on a page used to calculate the offset and the limit. Max per page, maximum allowed per page, limit defaults to 100. Okay, well let's run it. Let's run with this one. All right, so let's go there and let's copy that down to this one and do it right here. There we go. And now we'll be on page 1 by default. So when we go ahead and do our request, it should look exactly like normal. List has no attributes limit. List has no attributes limit. Limit is 10. Do we need to get rid of this limit now? because we're doubling up on limits. List limit. List object has no attributes limit. Our list object what the fuck is this shit? Let's remove that, see if that's just causing the issue. No. Something else is causing the issue. What if we remove just page? And try that. List object has no attribute limit. Did we miss something here that was required? Select page per page. Okay, we're spending too much time on this. All right, we're moving on. This is something you can figure out on your own time as a stretch goal, and I highly recommend you do because it is extremely useful and pretty much commonplace on a lot of sites, right? Commonplace on a lot of sites. We need to add our dot limit back. So let me go ahead and add that. So we can at least just do limiting right now, but pagination is definitely a to-do. So what we'll do in the meanwhile is just add a little to-do here for pagination. To-do, add pagination. All right. So that, again, that's going to be something for you guys to go and figure out because we're spending a little bit too much time on it, and we need to get to the next item here, aka posting pictures, right? Posting pictures. So this is pretty much good. We've beat this beast to the ground. So let's do posting pictures, shall we? So our post here is where we make our current text posts. But in regards to our images, we have to be a little bit more crafty. All right. So there's a variety of ways that people will send images, audio, and other potentially binary data across the internet, right? They're literally, if you look into it, everyone and their dog does something different. They all work. It just depends on what you want to go with, all right? What you want to go with. I personally don't really care for any of them. Like, I'll do whatever just is either going on or just whatever is easiest for me to get set up. And I won't really try much further than that. I haven't really had a need to go any further than that, but some people have the methods they go for, or some methods may be more proper or faster. An ideal method when you're utilizing cloud tech is you upload directly to the buckets that you utilize, and then you just reference those items in the buckets. You don't have to do it that way, but that is more of a cloud-esque way to go about doing it. For here, we don't have buckets, so what we can do instead is encode our images into base 64 and then send them across, and when we receive the images in base 64, we can then save them off into a file for retrieval later. If that didn't make sense to you, it will here in a second. So remember, our bases, should remember those, right? We talked about them for quite some time, all right? Base 2, base 8, base 16, base 10, all right? These are all ways you can count numbers, right? All ways you can count numbers. If you do not remember those, you need to go back. You need to go all the way back to day, like, whatever, 10 or something that we covered them on. I can't even remember. And you need to rewatch those. Base 64 is the same thing. Counting, except one digit, it goes up to 64 items in value. It's a way to add and compress a lot of data into a small amount of characters, right? Small amount of characters. You can also use this to basically encode entire images, audio files, etc., into long texts of string and then send them to API endpoints, because it's most proper to send text data to API endpoints in JSON format than send them raw binary data. You can send raw binary data, but it's more proper to be text data. Look, I don't really get it. I would just be sending just raw data, but whatever. The only useful benefit here is if we were sending raw data, we wouldn't be able to get things like the text value or other potential values that they send us in their post. It would just be the binary data. So now instead we can do something like photo equals request, and this is going to be an optional thing. So request get photo, and the photo value is going to be base64 encoded. So if just to show off base64, which we have before, and we're supposed to be using Bing here. Give me an example of base64. Let's see what Bing says. So you will see this pretty commonly in the dev world. Well, maybe not commonly. I should say it's uncommonly you'll see it. But you'll see it a lot in data transfer, and also if you're doing any type of CTFs, it will be pretty common to see them in CTFs. This key signature is they will pretty much always end with the equal sign, right? An equal sign is pretty much the giveaway that it's base64 encoded. So this is hello world in ASCII, then base64 encoded. This is what it looks like, right? This is what it looks like. So you can do this with pretty much anything, right? Pretty much anything. And then send it over the wire as text. So it's really, really convenient on that aspect. So we can take something like a photo, and there should be sites for doing this with photos. So let's Bing a picture to base64. See what we come up with. There we go, an encoder for base64. So let's go ahead and grab something like the rootkit logo here and drop it here. And it doesn't want to do that. Can I just do a copy and pasta? Where's paste? All right, I guess we're going to download it and then upload. Save as link, save as image. I don't know why that's so difficult for me to see right now. All right, so let's go ahead and save. Can't be downloaded securely. Are you kidding me? Keep it. All right, let's upload our image here. Let's go ahead and go to our downloads. There we go. And you'll see here down below, here is the entire rootkit logo as a base64 encoded string. So when someone wants to make a post on our site, the front end website that they're utilizing is responsible. So the JavaScript is responsible for taking the image in and then converting it to this base64, right? This base64. When it then comes to us, we're going to be responsible for decoding it into its original file and then saving it to disk somewhere so the website can then recall it later on, right? And then this is just the OG image source here. We don't really care about that. We're going to copy this string right here just for testing purposes, right? Just for testing purposes for inside of Postman. So when we're creating a new post here, all right, we can go ahead and just say something like image, or did we say picture? Picture. And we do string and we paste and bam, there we go. Now we've added our image in here. We got to put a comma right there. Now when we want to make a post, this post has a pic. it will work successfully. We just posted it, except it's not here. All right, it's not going to be here in our photo ID because we never saved it and we didn't add it to everything else. Now that I think of it, we could, if we really wanted to, and I don't recommend this. But if you wanted to, you could just dump this entire string into the database right here and then just have it recall it as encoded and then push the encoded version onto the front end site and then have the front end site decoded from. Don't do that. All right, we're going to save it to disk. All right, we're going to save it to disk. Any questions on that so far? Because we're about to go on break before we continue on. Any questions before we go on to break? All right, we're gonna go on break. If you do have any questions, go ahead and ask them into the chats on YouTube or Twitch or on the 100 Days of Rootkit chat on the Discord. So I'll see you guys in 3 to 5 minutes. Alrighty. Let us chug along with this last little bit here before we call it a day. Remember, tomorrow, chill Q&A. Alright, chill Q&A. So, past 90 whatever days, you can ask questions about any of them. Right? Any of them. And then, if you want to ask questions about the aimbot or any of the other applications that we have on our GitHub repo or whatever else. Right? Whatever else. We're just chilling. We're answering questions. Right? But 100 days, rootkit, questions, get prio. Everything else you can ask, right? We'll just chill, all right? Chill. So let us continue on our journey here. But before we do, just a quick recap. We are Rootkit, nonprofit organization here in the US of A. Don't go to college, don't go to boot camp. You're watching right now. It's free 99. Just watch, get certified, you get a job. It's really that easy, right? If you really want to get rid of money, you can just donate to us. On top of that, if you go to the blog section, we have our final giveaway going on right now. So make sure you enter to win. It's free. Just press the green button, enter to win today, right? Enter to win today. 100% free. On top of that, we are a charity, so if you like avoiding taxes, well, donate to us. So you can avoid your taxes, 100% tax deductible. Depending on what you donate, you can unlock certain rewards like our Epic stickers or collab t-shirt or Epic sweaters. So make sure you go donate today. All donations are matched 1-for-1 for our first 10,000 donations. And we have pillars along the way, like streaming for 24 hours straight, shaving my head here live on stream, and shaving my beard. No one wants to see that, so we don't need to worry about that. All right, let us continue on. So, we need to take these photos, download them, but also we want to be putting these photos into, logging them into their own photo table and photos tags table when we get to the machine learning spots, right? Get to the machine learning spots. So we have a little bug in regards to this because they weren't auto getting created. So I do have a fix, right? I do have a fix. Make a file here. Call it dbinit.py. In dbinit.py, we're going to make our DB. All right, we're going to make our DB. And then in here, we're going to do from libs.dbinit import db, and we're going to go ahead and import db, and that's all we got to do, like that. Why did I, there we go, accidentally removed that, I guess. So we're going to do that, and then in our main over here, where's the DB? Right here. We're going to do at the very top, we're going to do from libs.dbinit import db, and we're not going to do this. We're going to do db.init app. And does this return? Yeah, this doesn't return anything. So we just do like this. This should auto magically create our tables. Should. We'll see here in a second, right? We'll see here in a second. So let's start the server, restart it. Let's load up dbeaver and see if our tables were created. All the tables, all right? Because we only had users and posts from before, so now we should have photos and tags. So let's see here. Let's see if we do. Whenever this decides to load up, because I don't know why dbeaver is so slow. Alrighty, let's go to InstaClone, databases, there we go, and tables, and there we go. All of our tables are now made in here. So very convenient. We have our photos table and our tags table in here, right? Photos and tags table are all in here. So let's continue on, shall we? On our post section, right, we're getting the photo if they send a photo. So we also need to add some logic here. So if photo is not none, then we want to potentially do something. And it looks like it's auto writing stuff for us here. So photo, it's going to splat photo. That will not work at all. So photo wants to have ID, the post ID it's associated with, the URL to the photo, created at and disabled. Now, I highly recommend, I'm coming from cloud environment, so I'm very much used to URL. Because you're uploading to a bucket, we're going to do just a hacksy way, right, for our photos. We're going to make a new folder in here called photos. And this is where we're going to store our photos, right? This is where we're going to store our photos. And how we're going to store the photos is based off of, we could use the ID. The URL is not really as necessary anymore, because we can't really generate the URL until we have the ID, at least the way that I'm thinking of. Yeah, I think URL might not be really needed anymore. We're going to use the ID, all right? So URL is a field that we have, but we're not going to use it at all. You can modify your code so it does use it, but we're not going to use it literally at all. We're just going to use ID, all right? So basically the ID that we automatically get from the photo that we create is going to be the ID of the photo that we save. And when you want to retrieve that photo, you're going to retrieve it based off the ID, all right? Everything's going to go with the ID. And another thing that we are kind of missing in here is, like, what is the photo's type? Is it a JPEG, a PNG, etc., etc., etc.? What we're going to do is I'll leave a little to-do comment for you guys to potentially expand upon this and allow for support of more photos, but we're going to make a strict PNG only policy, all right? So everything is going to be forced to become a PNG, and that's the only thing we're going to accept, all right? So we'll just add a little thing in here to do allow for more photo types besides PNG. All right, it's like it heard me. How did it know I was going to do PNG? There's so many other photo types out there. Are you kidding me? All right, so photo being created, session add photo tags. The tags we're going to do later. So this is, we can say right here, to do add photo tags with ML. So if the photo is not none, we're going to want to create we need to give it will auto get a new ID, because that's going to be just automatically done. That we need to give it the post that it's going to be associated with. I'm going to put this off to the side and then bring up our post. So the post that it's going to be associated with, so the post needs to be created first. We can update that after the fact, I guess. This is kind of photo ID. Well, it should automatically have one made. Does it work like that? I don't know. We'll figure out. We'll figure out here in a second if it automatically works like that. So what's this check we have for the user? Is this legacy? No, this is for us verifying. So let's move all this code out of this, except for that to do. We don't need that to do. So let's move it out of this little check here, and let's do it after the post. All right, after the post right here, because we only need to do the commit once. This should add and make the post get an ID right here, because remember when we do stuff on SQL, we're kind of in an in-between world state where we're doing changes and we're getting stuff done, but it's not fully saved until we do the commit. So we'll fully do the commit here, but I believe that we should technically have a post ID once we add it to the session right here. So what we're going to do in photo here is we're going to say post.RID, and this is going to be post ID is equal to, all right, so post ID is equal to, this is auto created. We're not going to do anything with the URL. Nullable is false, so we can't leave the URL null right now. So we're just going to make the URL blank just for now. I'm going to space these out a little bit so that way they look a little nicer. We don't need to do created out. We don't need to do disabled. So this is everything we should have to do with photos. So the photo is then going to be, we don't need to do the commit here because we just need one commit at the end. And then since this photo is going to be made, we kind of need to do a Uno reverse card here and do post dot photo ID is now equal to photo ID. So we can patch that up. And again, none of this will be fully committed or saved to the database until this commit goes. So if anything bugs out or breaks, we're good because it doesn't commit any of this data. The last thing we got to do here is actually save this photo. All right. So if the photo is not none, before we do any of this, we should try to save the photo. So we want to decode it. So I believe it's going to be, let's do Python base 64 photo decode and save to disk, right? I believe we just import the base 64 library, decode, and then open a new file, and we can open it based off the ID and then save that image. Yeah. So just what I thought. So let's go to the top here and do our import base 64. This is a built-in Python class, so you don't need to worry about importing anything. We need our post ID first, so we can't save the photo until after this. So now we can go ahead and open. So we're going to use with open. I guess we could, okay, static images. I called it photos. Let's change it to images. There we go, images. And I'm just going to call it images. So in the images folder, we want to save the photo id.png. It's going to be a binary file. So we're going to write and we're going to decode the base 64 and wham bam. That should be just about everything, right? So quick recap, and then we'll try this out and then we will take questions if everything works flawlessly, which I always think it does. And then there's always that one little error. So we do have a little bit of a chicken and the egg going on. All right. You sometimes will have this happen, right? Sometimes you will have this happen. The chicken and the egg situation for us is in regards to the posts. The post wants the ID of the photo that is linked to it, but we can't get the ID of the photo till we make the photo first. And the photo wants to know the post that created that photo. All right. But we can't get that post ID until we create the post first. So we have a little bit of an awkwardness. We got to choose what we want to create first. So we chose to create the post first. So since we created the post first, the photo can have a photo ID. The post does not have the photo attached to it though. We have to do that here at the end. Fixing the chicken and the egg problem. This can be attributed to one, the database records we have are maybe not set up potentially the best or needed. Two, it's kind of just the awkwardness sometimes that happens in regards to when you're doing these things. Unless there was a bigger table with all of them happening at once, sometimes it's a little weird like this, right? And right here, we're also saving the file, and this is another chicken the egg scenario. We can't really save the file until the photo record is made, so we have to do the photo record first and then save it to disk. But remember, the records aren't going to be fully added to the database until we do the commit here. When the records fully save, right? This is when they fully save. So everything is pretty much in a limbo state. All right, let's go and try this and see if it works. So right now our image folder is completely empty. We're going to go ahead and say same post, same text, run it, and none type has no attribute of ID. So which one is the none type attribute of ID photo on 72? this one right here. Post photo. Okay, so the photo is having an issue here. So this is why also I put, oh, I guess I must have fixed that. So this is why I said sometimes you want to predefine your variables. This is an instance where we want to predefine this variable because it's scoped into this if statement, which I guess is causing an issue. Actually, if photo is not none, oh, we got two variables here. We got a variable here called photo, and we got a variable here called photo. So we want to call this one photo base 64. All right, and then this is where we want to decode that photo. So that should change up that. I think we might run into the same issue just because this is kind of scoped. Python's kind of weird sometimes with that. So what we can do in order to fix that is say right here. Well, this should be tabbed up also. Maybe we don't need to fix it because we don't really need to do this unless the photo is created, because they can just do text posts. So we can just tab this up so it's a part of this logic that only goes if the photo is attached. So let's go ahead and run this again. And here we go. Local variable photo is referenced before assignments. So local variable photo here is referenced before assignments. Okay, because this should now be base 64. Let's rerun this again, and it looked like it worked, right? So let's check our, if you look also right here, photo ID is null. So we have an issue here. We have an issue here that we need to fix. Let's go ahead and check the images folder here, and we see we don't have an image showing up here. So that is also an issue. So things are executing correctly, but not correctly. So let's do some sanity checks here. This is called picture. What are we getting here? This is called photo. All right, so that's probably the bug that we're running into. This is called photo. This is called picture. Maybe we should just call them image across the board since this is the images folder here. So let's call this image. Let's change this from photo base 64 to image base 64. And the conversion to photo would be this picture, or when we say photo here. So that way now we know that image is basically everything else except for the class, and the class itself is in the database itself is going to be referred to as photo. Again, naming issues. All right. If I haven't proven to you guys already, all right, hey, naming's hard sometimes, all right. I mess up with it. So let's rerun this and see. Here we go. We got an integrity error. Column post ID cannot be null. So the post ID cannot be null. Why would the post insert into photo post ID? It should be post ID would be this post. We have a post ID right here. Am I reading that right? This is going into photo section in post ID. It's saying post ID cannot be null, but it shouldn't be null because where's my mouse? Yeah, it says it's none, but it's right here. So is it bugging out because it didn't fully commit? I would assume so, because this is none right here. So what we can do is just do a commit right here in order to ensure we get that ID. Or do we need to do a query? But how do we query if we don't have the ID? Let's do a commit right here and see if that resolves it. I didn't want to do that. I only wanted to do one commit, but let's roll with that. All right, looks like that worked. Kind of. This is still null, so that's an issue. We do have the image that shows up here, so this is working correctly. So we have a couple bugs and a couple things working right now. Bug number one here is photo ID is still equal to none on the record, so we need to fix that. The photo is saving, so the data is being transferred across correctly. All right. You can see the image's name is none, which is also a bug. So this should not be none. This should be the ID of the photo. And if we look at the database here and go to photo, we can see that the photo is here with the proper post ID, and the ID of the photo is here also set to 1. So what I'm guessing is probably another commit issue, so maybe we don't need this commit here at the bottom anymore. We might need it for this. I'll just keep the commit here. So we need, basically we can resolve it by adding another commit right here. All right, so if we add a commit right there, now when we post again, there we go. We got our photo ID of 2 is now showing up here, and we should see the photo is now in here with a ID of 2. All right, so everything is working. Everything is working and functional. I would say later on, I would probably spend some extra time messing with your commits here, because I feel, look, it works. It works. And that's all that matters, right? It's all that really matters here is it works. Nothing's really like broken, etc. But I feel like it could be probably better in regards to the commit logic that we're doing here and the meshing of this. I think it's kind of a factor of just how we set up the tables with the ID awkwardness, but we got it to work right now, and that's all that matters. The last thing that is debatable on your filtering and your checking here is the image is raw data that we're being given by a user. Users cannot be trusted. So we're saving this to disk, which means this photo could be malicious, potentially, could be malicious. So you may want to do some additional filtering or logic here for photos, right? To do filter, not filter, what do I, not filter, what is it called? Validate photo, right? So we might want to do some additional validation on your photo, maybe to make sure it's an actual photo, make sure the photo doesn't have malicious code in it. There are some services for doing checks on that. I would say this is more so on the lower priority for things to potentially be checking for and doing validation on, but it doesn't hurt just to leave, even if you don't really plan on fixing it, just leave it to do. So if the time ever does come, or if you move on, if someone else is taking your place, they know potentially issues that may need to be patched. So with this, we're pretty much done and almost ready to go to the machine learning part, which we are going to do on Monday, right? The tags with utilizing machine learning right here in our application, showing how easy it is to use machine learning. We're going to do that on Monday. We have one last step before we call today good, and that is photo retrieval, right? That is going to be photo retrieval. So we're going to make a new endpoint here called photo.py, and this will be retrieval of the photo. Now, some people might be not happy with me for having a REST endpoint return photos. I don't really care, all right? We're doing it a hacky way right now anyways, all right? So, and it works. All right, so let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and grab all of this beautiful stuff, paste it right here. Again, we're going to keep is auth. All right, we're going to keep is auth. So you won't be able to access these images unless you are authorized. All right, unless you're authorized. So we're going to allow anyone to get the image. All right, anyone can get any image. User head, we won't do anything with. We are going to get the query params, and inside of the query params, since it is a get request, that's where they're going to say what the ID of the photo is that they want to retrieve, right? So we're going to say photo ID equals photo ID. So what this looks like so far here is we're going to do a add folder. We're going to say photo. And in here, we're going to go ahead and make our get request. This is going to be for getting a photo. We're going to say right here, URL/photo photo, right? And here we're going to say photo ID, and the photo ID is, I don't know, 1, right? We'll just say photo ID 1. If we run this right now, it's not going to work because we haven't made this endpoint yet. So we need to finish up the logic here, and then we need to add the endpoint to our main. So photo ID. Next, we need to read the photo, right? I guess we could do a check here for if it's none, right? Then do return. Next is going to be query. So this is for querying the photo. Yeah, I guess we could maybe potentially change this endpoint, because you may want to retrieve the photo info from the. We might tweak this endpoint, the naming of the endpoint around a little bit later, but the whole point of it right now is going to stay the same. We're going to call this photo, and we're going to say not that, but we're going to say instead we want the with open. There we go. And we're going to call this images. So from the images folder, with that photo ID.png, we want to read that file in. And when we read that file in, we want to photo, this is going to be base 64. And we want to get the base 64 version of this photo. So we're going to say base 64 dot and encode. So we're going to encode it. If this doesn't return anything, encodes the file. Input and output are binary. So we don't want to potentially use. And is output, can I put a. Will that work? Let's go double check before running. I guess we could just run it. This is not defined. All right, would that work? Not quite sure. The last thing we could do, well, we don't even have to do that. We could just return it. Never mind. We can just return this as the raw data. Let's undo, undo, undo. We don't need to basic return photo. I think we can just do this. So let's see. We send. We didn't add it to main yet. Let's go ahead and add it to main. So right here, we need to do our import right here. Import libs photo down here. Let's make a new endpoint for photo stuff. And we're going to call this photo.photo. This is going to be photo. And there we go. Run this. No such file directory as images1.png. Makes sense because 1.png showed up as none, so we have 2. So we should do our query here, not on photo ID of 1, but of 2. And its type is not JSON serial, which I think is because we're using API resource here. So instead of using API resource here, could we use an alternative? Or I think we can change the return type. Let's go to Bing real quick. Python Flask RESTful return image data. So let's see here, because you can return an image without not using the Flask RESTful, using vanilla Flask. So I wonder if Flask RESTful doesn't really allow it. The other thing is, yeah, this. All right, send file. All right, we need to use the send file function. We say the file name. Okay, this works. So we don't even have to read it. All right, it's going to auto magically do this stuff here for us. So we just need to say the file name. File name. That's wrong. So file name, we just need to import this send file function. So on Flask, we can import that. There we go. Let's go ahead and rerun this and see. There we go. And now you can see we got the image. All right, we got the image. All right, so not too awfully difficult to do something like this. All right, and again, it works. It works. I, again, personally think it would be better. Again, we're not using cloud services right now. I think it would be better if you utilize cloud services for uploading photos to buckets and then distributing them via the URL. But we're not doing that. So what we're doing instead is just downloading all of our photos into a folder and giving them a name based off their ID. This is also maybe not ideal. We're using ID because we know for a fact each ID will be 100% unique, and we don't need to worry about photos colliding with names. What you could also do, which would be more better, is making a UUID for each one. That's 2 U's and an ID. All right. This is something you've most likely seen very commonly with images before. Let's go ahead and type in UUID. All right. So universal unique identifier. So it's going to be something that looks like this, right? You have interacted with these before. You will interact with them in your future. And it's pretty common to use them as potentially labeling points for your photos, right? So that is another way you can make a name for your photo. Some people will even combine that with like some prefix parts. So maybe they'll, for advertising purposes, they'll put like the name of their product underscore the UUID, or maybe name of their product underscore timestamp underscore the UUID. There's lots of different variations that you can come across. So again, what we have done here is people can go onto our site. Again, this is just the back end part. They can create a post. The image is optional. They can create a post just text. They can create a post with an image. When they want to create one with an image, they have to send it as base64 encoded, which the website that we make will automatically handle for us. All right. And the posts will be created. When we want to get photos that they've uploaded, we can get them and retrieve them via their ID. This will not be an issue because when you get posts, right? When we get posts, it will have the photo ID attached to it. If that photo ID is null, they don't have a photo attached to their post. It's just a text post. If they, and we're filtering based off user ID right now, so let me turn these off. If we get a post that doesn't have a null photo ID, we will have the photo ID itself. So right here, it says photo ID of 2, which means we have a photo guaranteed. So we can now just do the get photo based off that ID that was in there and retrieve the photo that we need. A pro for this, which I would highly recommend you guys doing, is this photo that I upload or your users may upload may be fucking massive. Megabytes, right? What is expensive? Data transfer over the wire, right? Over the internet. So since it is in a REST endpoint setup like this, we have absolute power and control, which means when we are downloading files or photos, or when they are trying to retrieve photos, we could potentially be cropping or resizing the photos to be in a smaller or more optimized state. When people want to retrieve photos, we can allow them to on the live time, real time, crop or edit the photo, right? This is something that you will come across sometimes when you're looking at images. So if we, I don't know, Google, or I guess we're supposed to Bing. If we go to Bing and we, I don't know, just go to images right now. Some of these images you'll see, if we open in a new tab, in here, right here, this is a great example. In this URL, I'm going to paste it right here so you can see it real closely. You're going to see it looks completely normal. This is the ID of the photo right here. And then after the question mark, this is going to be your query parameters. In these query parameters, they have something that you should keep your eye on. Sometimes it goes by W and H. Sometimes it goes by the words width and height. This is real-time cropping of the image or resizing of the image. So in real time, when you retrieve this image, it is much larger than what they're making you initially believe. But they are real time changing the size of it before giving it to you. And what these companies will do is they'll just keep sometimes the original version of the file like we are right now, and they'll just keep that way. And every time you ask for a different format or size of the file, they will, in their code here, resize it to that new size, save it into this image folder as 2_ and then these new dimensions, and then give it to you. So that way, when someone else wants to get the file in a slightly different or in the same resolution that you requested, they already made it from a previous request. So it's cached and they can serve it to you faster, right? So this is potentially something you can do also. So I'm going to just leave a little comment here that says to do add custom file or image sizes, because that is something you can do. We're not going to do it, but that is something you can totally go at, and by totally, you should 100% do it, because if they're uploading massive files, you do not want to serve massive files to your users. You want to keep it as small as possible. There's no reason why when I'm on my phone, I should be, downloading a image file that's 10 megabytes large. All right. This phone has a small screen. All right. I'm not on a 4K, 8K monitor. All right. Any questions with this? Right. Any questions with this? I think we've hit everything we were supposed to hit today. So again, go and ask your questions. Tomorrow, chill Q&A. So ask your questions from any of the previous 90 whatever days, right? Or any other questions that you have, just show up, ask questions, right? We're there to answer your questions. And then on Monday, we're going to investigate some machine learning models and show how easy it is to download and start using machine learning in your application today. It's so easy. It's incredibly easy. There's no excuse for you not to be looking at and utilizing machine learning whenever you can. All right. What questions do you all have? I guess the last thing we should do is do our git commit. So let's go and do a git add, git commit. Okay, that's an issue. So let's go in and stop this and do a git reset. We need to not commit anything inside of the images folder. So we can go down here. We can commit the images folder, but we don't want anything inside of the images folder. So we're going to do asterisk, images/asterisk, right? So you can see the images folder will stay there, but anything inside of it, we're going to ignore it. So now we can do a git add and a git commit, and it looks like we're good now. Allows for posts with images and image retrieval. There we go. Let's go ahead and do a git push. All right. Any questions you guys have? All right, I don't see any questions. So we're going to call that a day. So I'll see you guys tomorrow on the next one.